Hello, welcome back to another video, and today we are finally talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This time with spoilers. So I was actually able to see this a second time, and this is actually my second time trying to record this review, a spoiler review. And this time without a headache. So I wanted to talk some spoilers. My notes are all over the place, so I'm not sure how good of an order this will be, but there's just some things I thought we could talk about it. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie yet, click away, come back after you've seen this video. You should definitely go see it. I'll give you a few more seconds to click away. Now let's dive into some spoilers. Alright, so the movie actually starts off... Well, the movie starts similarly to the first film, with like the whole glitchy intros and the appeared by the comics code of authority. But then when we actually kick into the story, we don't start with Miles Morales. No, instead, we start with Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen. We get this cool intro, but we start with Spider-Gwen playing the drums. We get this awesome theme, or this score that ends up being the theme for her throughout the movie with the drums, which I thought was just like really cool. Every time they incorporated the drums into the music, and it was always related to Spider-Gwen. I thought that was really cool. We got this pretty cool intro where we see that we actually get to see the origin with her and her Peter Parker, where we actually get to see that her Peter Parker turned to a lizard and then die. And then Captain Stacy blames Spider-Gwen, or technically they call her Spider-Woman, for his death, and how that causes conflict between the two. And something I noticed too is that they technically recast Peter Parker from this world. In Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, when they showed just a quick glimpse of him, they used the same design as Peter B. Parker and Peter Parker from Miles' world. In this movie, he looks different from those two Peters. Like, you can still tell it's Peter Parker, but it's a different model, which I just thought that was an interesting detail that I noticed. Then later on, then we eventually get this fight scene where she battles with Vulture from another universe. He is from a Da Vinci type universe, and then Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 29, and Jessica Drew, I think is her name, Spider-Woman, shows up to help take him out. Well, take him down. They catch him. They're about to go back to their universe. Captain Stacy finds her. She reveals who she is, and then, but instead of being like, "Oh wow, okay, I understand now," he's still about to arrest her. So Miguel lets her join the Spider Society, and then we go to our opening credits, which I'm not gonna lie. Even though I enjoyed this, it kind of felt like a really long opening. Mostly the first time. The second time I didn't mind it as much. But the first time I remember it was like, huh, the movie's just now starting? Okay. But yeah, and they do make Gwen's world look different too from all the other worlds, and they do it for each world that we visit, which I think is cool. Now, one thing I do want to mention, that this is a very hot take, I think, because I think a lot of people like this about the movie, but like, it was kind of distracting and bothering to me whenever the backgrounds were constantly changing. I get it, I understood what they were trying to do with both this scene and the scene at the end that we'll talk about later. But like, I don't know, to me it felt kind of distracting, but I understand why people like it. I mean, it does make it look a lot like a painting, but still. After that, we of course go over to Miles' world, where we get another recap of the film. I don't know why we need to, but this time of his point of view, while also filling the gaps of what he was doing in the year and a half between the two movies. We see he's struggling to balance his life as Miles Morales and Spider-Man, and we see how this actually causes a lot of conflict with his parents, which was interesting to see. And they do show they kind of have it in this way too, where both the parents and Miles are flawed, but they also there's you understand both sides. You understand. Well, obviously Miles is going to be late to things. Obviously, he's not going to be able to make it to some things and have to leave early. He's Spider-Man. He's got a responsibility, because, as we all know, with great power, there must also come great responsibility. But if you look at it from the parents' perspective, they're just seeing that their now teenage son is just disappearing out of nowhere to who knows where, whenever he wants to, at any point in time, no matter how important something is. So, like, you understand both sides. Like, it's so frustrating because of that, where it's like, even though you understand why Miles probably shouldn't tell his parents because that could be dangerous, and also how they react to him lying to them for a year and a half, but also it's like I really want him to tell them because this tension is so horrible. I want them to understand why Miles is always disappearing. So that was done really well, I think. They do a good job making you see both sides, while also having some fun and funny moments between the two, as well as having some sweet moments between them as well. Gwen eventually comes over to this universe, we think to visit Miles, and that ends up being wrong. It ends up because she's got to see Spot. Speaking of Spot, we did see that Miles was battling him a little bit earlier, calling him, he's just a villain of the week, and all that. Which, something interesting too, is that when we actually do meet his roommate slash friend Genki, who the video game Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales made me love Genki, but in this one he's completely different, which I'm glad they did make him different. I didn't want him to be the exact same, but like he has no interest, it seems, in helping him at all. He's playing video games, and if you look closely, it looked like it was Marvel Spider-Man, and it looked like the second one too, the PS5 version, which I cannot wait for. But he's playing that game, and also he says, "I'm not your guy in the chair," which, come on, has to be a reference to Tom Holland in Homecoming when Ned's like, "I gotta be your guy in the chair." So that was funny. That made me laugh. But yeah, him and Gwen meet up. They catch up a little bit. She has to go off to find Spot, who starts off as this joke villain, but due to some experiments, he becomes more powerful. And something interesting too that I liked about the Spot was how they were able to tie him in to the first film too, where not only it's because he brought the spider over to this dimension, because that spider was not from Miles' world, and he's the guy who got hit in the head with a bagel in the first film, which I think is hilarious. So now technically, when you look back at this trilogy, the Spot is in all three movies, even though he's just a background character. A background joke character who got hit in the head with a bagel in the first film, he's still there in every movie in the trilogy, because he was the main villain of this one, kinda, sorta. You could argue it, that's Spider-Man 2099, but whatever. And also he'll be in the next one, and now we know he was in the first one all along. So that was interesting. They had a lot of tiebacks to the first one, which I thought was cool. They did a great job with. Where it meant the first one had consequences. On this film, it caused a lot. Like, we learned that that's what put a hole through the multiverse, which is why different people are able to go into different worlds, or are sucked into different worlds, like Renaissance Vulture sucked into Gwen's world. But we have all that take place, and then Miles does follow Gwen. They go into the Spider Society later on. Into the Spider Society, where there's a whole bunch of technically they have to go to Mumbattan first, actually. I'm jumping ahead. Where we meet Spider-Man India, who I really loved. I thought he was hilarious and funny. And we eventually see that a canon event that is undone, and because of that, his world's starting to be destroyed. We also meet Spider-Punk, who I love. This movie did a great job making me love the new characters, too, because, I'm not gonna lie, there was a part of me that was kind of sad that we weren't going to see some of the original characters return for this one, but I also understood, well, if they're not part of the story, well, how could they be part of it? Even though I guess Penny, in a way, is kind of part of it, kind of, sort of. But they did a great job making me love these new characters. I ended up loving Spider-Man India. He was so much fun. He has those great funny moments. The fact that he kept talking about and pointing out the fact that Gwen and Miles' will they, won't they, and the fact that he gets mad at Miles for calling it chai tea when it should be called chai. It's just hilarious, because no one calls it TT apparently. But yeah, that was fun. I ended up loving Spider-Punk. He had some hilarious moments. Like, I loved his interaction with Mayday too, when he was like, I forget exactly what he said after. He's like, you crap on this too. Crapping on the job, I salute you, or something like that. I can't remember the exact joke, but it made me laugh. He was an enjoyable character, and they made me like him. I like how he helped out Miles too, especially. What I like too is that they kind of set up to be this annoying thing where it's like, oh great, he's going to be competition for Miles, and they're going to go back and forth about who's going to be with Gwen, blah blah blah, all that annoying stuff. They set that up, and then they have it be like helping out Miles, and there's like no competition there at all. Just a bit of like, who is this guy again? So they made me love Spider-Punk. Shoot, even a little bit we got with Spider-Bite, the gamer hologram spider person. I actually ended up liking her character more than I thought I would with the brief couple seconds we got, so I'm glad she's on the team. We'll talk about that when we get to the end. But we also get a whole bunch of cameos here. Like, we get Spectacular Spider-Man, which was cool. We get the original animated Spider-Man from the very first animated series, which was cool. The one that made me gasp, I was the only one in the theater who gasped, but like when they were going through different variants they've captured, they go over Insomniac's Spider-Man, where we see the advanced suit, 3D animated model like from the video game, and we even get a voiceover from Yuri Lowenthal, who voices him in the video game. Which when that happened, when I heard Yuri's voice, I went, oh, because I was like, I was not expecting to hear his voice in this movie, because I love the Marvel Spider-Man games. I think so far, and I'm so stoked for the second one. It's like one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man. So, like, even though, yes, we see the advanced suit, we saw it in the trailer and the poster, and we also see another version of Spider-Man with the advanced suit later on, or around the Spider, who's actually part of the Spider Society. Who knows who that guy is? But the fact that they actually called him Insomniac Spider-Man and actually had Yuri Lowenthal have a line, to me was just like, oh, I was the only one in the theater who gasped, but you know, there was that. And then, speaking of another cameo that only got I was the only person in the theater who reacted, we actually got to see Donald Glover as a live-action Prowler. Some people think it's from the MCU. I personally think it's just a random cameo as a joke that, look, he's the Prowler. I think it's just to be a multi-sided joke. But it'd be awesome if it was him from the MCU. But the reason why this has, like, so many different layers to it, that like, I'm the only one in the theater who laughed. Like, I laughed when I saw him. I was like, oh, that's awesome. No one else in the theater laughed, so I'm pretty sure I was the only one in that theater who understood the reference. But yeah, in case you don't, there's so many layers on top of this. In the episode of Community, he wore a Spider-Man shirt. This kind of inspired Miles Morales. Everybody wanted him to play Miles Morales in a live-action movie. However, he got too old. But he did get to voice Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show. And he had to play his uncle Aaron Davis in Spider-Man Homecoming. Well, they do mention his name is Aaron Davis, and he does mention that he has a nephew in Spider-Man Homecoming. So, you know, so many different layers to this joke. It's hilarious and awesome. It was cool to see. So, you know, he gets to play a live-action Prowler as a quick bit, which is cool. But what's cool, too, is that there were some cameos that weren't just fan service. Some of them actually made sense for the story. Like, for example, two cameos that I loved were Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. They actually made sense to the story because, as Spider-Man 29 is explaining canon events, he explains that some events have to happen no matter what in every universe, in every story, including the death of an uncle and the death of a police captain. When we talk about the death of a police captain, he shows Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, and Captain Stacy of that world. And then when we talk about Uncle Ben, you can see Tobey Maguire over his Uncle Ben. So I thought that was cool to see. And we don't see anything from Tom Holland's world, except for maybe the Prowler, if that's him. I don't necessarily think it is, but I guess it could be. And then, but they do reference the No Way Home a little bit when he goes, don't even get me started on that nerd, that Doc Strange and that nerd from Earth 19999, referencing No Way Home, the No Way Home events. But yeah, that was cool and stuff like that. So then we also we actually get this. This is a pretty cool, interesting story too, where it is kind of can divide an audience possibly. Like I could have seen this being marketed well, they might have, and I just didn't realize it because I only saw the big trailers. I didn't see any TV spots. But they could have marketed it kind of like Civil War's marketing, where it's like, choose a side, Team Miles, Team Miguel, Spider-Man Civil War, because of the fact that it's like Miguel, even though he's kind of a jerk and you don't really like him, you can understand where he's coming from, and he's not necessarily wrong. Technically, Miguel and Miles are both not in the wrong. Not really, because of the fact that they say that a police captain has to die. Miles' dad is now a police captain. His dad has to die. It's a canon event. If he doesn't, that whole world, everybody in it dies. So Miguel is trying to make sure that happens. He's making sure canon events happen, because that's what happened in Spider-Man India's world. Miles saved the police captain, therefore disrupting a canon event, and now his world's starting to collapse. But Miles is like, no, there's a way I can save my dad and save the world, the multiverse. So there's a collision there. Now, I personally would have much preferred a Spider-Man Civil War type thing instead of just Miles versus a million different Spider people, especially because not every Spider person I think would agree with this. Like, for example, I really did not like the fact that Peter B. Parker was on Miguel's side for most of the movie. He was definitely the most like hesitant, even more so I would say than Gwen. But still, it's just like I don't know. I feel like it made sense for Gwen's character arc. Maybe that was just me. But Peter B. Parker, when I saw that he was on Team Miguel, I was like, no, 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 no. Now, technically, yes, even though we see a whole bunch of Spider people, the multiverse is supposed to be infinite, and then we know that there's a bunch of Spider people who are not on this team. Like, for example, the 3 live-action Spider people are not on this team. Insomniac Spider-Man technically is not a part of this team either. He was put in the wrong world. They caught him, and now they're gonna put him back in his world. And you know, there's how many other different Spider people, and if every version of Spider-Man is canon, then I mean, like, the Ultimate Spider-Man from that TV show technically is not a part of this team. Even though I'm pretty sure there's other reasons why he wasn't in the movie. But you know, there's other versions of Spider people who probably weren't part of this team, who had nothing to do with it, who would be on Team Miles. But like, for example, Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham weren't a part of this team either. Penny Parker we saw was, even though she does change her mind later on. But Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham were not part of this team. So I mean, I guess technically, yeah, not every Spider-Man person would be against Miles, but still, I feel like more Spider people would be with Miles, like Peter B. Parker would be. But whatever. Moving on. We get a really epic action scene with a bunch of Spider people, so many different references, cameos. We see a bunch of other Spider people. Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly was cool to see. I thought he was funny. I understand that people not liking him, but I thought he was funny. We did see a glimpse of Last Stand Spider-Man, who I'm really upset. I kind of wish he actually had a big part in the movie, because I actually like Last Stand Spider-Man. I think he can be cool if done correctly. As well as a whole bunch of other Spider people, which I'm not even going to get into because there's so many. Maybe I can make a video, like, talk about the different Spider people, but there's just too many. And other people are doing it anyway, so, you know, it's like, whatever. I mean, we get to see Spider T-Rex, which I see blow up suits up all the time at stores. We get to see Spider Cat. We get to see a bunch of others. It's just so awesome. So many. And we also learned, too, that Miles Morales was never supposed to be Spider-Man, which I thought was a great twist, where the events of Spider-Man 2 Spider-Verse technically were never supposed to happen. That spider was never supposed to be put in that world. That spider was never supposed to bite Miles. And because of the fact that he was bitten, his Peter Parker died, even though he was never supposed to. Because he died, they were able to turn on the collider, poking a hole through the multiverse, which was never supposed to happen. Because of the fact that the device poked a hole through the multiverse, it also created the spot, which was never supposed to happen. And now Miles' dad is going to die, which was never supposed to happen. Which, I mean, technically, if you make that, I feel like it's a way that they could save his dad. Like, if Peter was never supposed to be Spider-Man, how do we know that his dad, that means his dad is not supposed to die, right? So, I mean, technically they could just find that loophole, save him, his world would be saved. But I don't know, I don't know. Could be wrong, whatever. We'll see in part 2, Beyond the Spider-Verse. But yeah, that was a pretty cool reveal. And I mean, there actually was a hint to it. If you remember the first movie, the spider glitch, which when watching the first movie, I thought nothing of, even though I've seen it like 5 times, probably more than that. I never thought of it until they brought that up in this movie. I was like, oh, that makes sense now. But yeah, see, so many different ways they're bringing it in the first film, which is awesome. Now, the ending, I know a lot of people don't like. I don't mind it. I thought it was interesting. I thought I think it does feel like we're about to go into a third act that doesn't happen.
Just me?
And I do wonder, like, how are they going to do this? Because the movie does feel kind of long. It's 2.5 hours long. So we had 2.5 hours of setup for what I'm assuming is going to be around 2 hours, a 2-hour payoff maybe. Which could be cool, or it could feel too long as well. Because, like, the first film was 1 hour and 50-something minutes, I believe. Almost 2 hours, and this one was 2.5. So I'm assuming that one's going to be around 2 hours somewhere. But yeah, so I do agree that it does feel like we're about to go into a third act that never happens. But I also think that it does a great job at getting me super hyped to see what's next. Like, I remember, like, that ending got me, like, so excited. Like, I'm never... Because even Infinity War didn't get me that excited for Endgame. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I was excited for Endgame. But, like, it didn't leave me with the feeling of excitement. It left me with the feeling of heartbreak because I saw all these people die. This one left me with the feeling of excitement. Like, oh, this is going to be awesome. To be continued. Dang it! I have to wait a whole year to see what's going to be what I thought was going to be an awesome climax. But I think it does do a great job of hyping us up. Where Miles, we get an actually really good twist where it turns out he's in the wrong world. He's sent back, but is sent to the world without a Spider-Man. Where we've learned that in that world, Miles Morales is the Prowler. They capture him, they chain him up to a punching bag like he did the Peter B. Parker in the first film. He's captured. Meanwhile, Gwen goes off, and she actually has closure with her dad, where she goes back to her world. Her dad comes to terms with her being Spider Gwen, or Spider Woman, or Ghost Spider. She's got like 3 names if you think about it. I think they should just call her Ghost Spider, because I understand why they can't call her Spider Gwen, because kind of reveals the name. But hey, that's just me. Whatever. And it was really sweet scene. Like I said, the constantly changing background's kind of distracting. But it was still a really sweet scene between the two, and I just thought, and this is one way where it's like, it is half a Miles Morales story, but it's a full Gwen Stacy story. We get to get closure with her and her father. We get to see the conclusion of her story with her father, and now she's going to help Miles finish his story. So that's, in a way, it is a complete story. It's a complete Gwen Stacy story, but it is only half of a Miles Morales story. But yeah, but like I said, she's getting a new band together to go save Miles, which got me so hyped because it includes herself, Peter B. Parker, Mayday Parker, Peter's daughter, which I have to say, I love seeing Peter Parker have a daughter, Mayday Parker. I thought it was awesome. I wish we could see more versions of Spider-Man with a daughter, just because it's such a fun dynamic, and he was so funny. Him and Mayday were so funny in the movie too, which was great. And then it also includes some of the newcomers that I came to love in this movie, like Spider-Man India and Spider-Punk, who actually gave her a device to go through the multiverse, and Spider-Bite, who did have hesitation, who was about to stop Miles, who you could tell they had a little bit of a connection, her and Miles, when they first met, and then at the end she's about to stop him, and then she decides not to. So she also joins the team. Plus we get some of the old people back, some of the OGs back, like the veterans, Penny Parker and SPDR, Spider-Man Noir, and Spider-Ham. So that's what got me so stoked, was seeing the old characters that I loved and wanted to see back again with the new characters I came to love. So that's awesome. She says, I made a new band, you want in, runs to the portal, to be continued. Like I said, I understand why people don't like that, because it is such a huge cliffhanger where it's like, we're about to go into the climax, just kidding, you have to wait a whole year to see the climax. But I also like that scene got me like so hyped. I was like, oh, to be continued, dang it. So like, I thought it was a great scene, but I do understand, because it is like, we're about to go in the climax and we don't. So yeah, there's that. And then Miles is getting ready to break out of the Prowler's grasp. At least that's what it looks like. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie though. I thought it was really good. I don't think it's as good as some people say it is. Like, some people are saying greatest comic book movie ever, greatest anime movie ever, greatest movie ever. I don't think it's a bit like that, but I do think it is a pretty good movie. I think I still prefer the first film more. Like, the first film gave me the feels way more. Like, I felt like that movie was constantly making me cry. This one, I didn't really feel that many emotions. I mean, it wasn't. So I'm not saying it wasn't emotional. There were some emotional moments between like Gwen and her dad, but nothing that brought tears to my eyes. But that also might be because we didn't really get the full climax, which we're probably gonna get next movie, which might bring a bunch of tears. But yeah. So, like I said, I really enjoyed this movie, but I don't think it's the greatest movie ever, like some people do. Also, something funny cool I want to notice. The animation is great. It looks like a comic book. There's some cool stuff where like they bring up something and just like a comic book in the bottom right corner. It would explain what it was like in the comic books. Also, the score was amazing, just like the last one. Every time I got so hyped every time they brought back the score from the first film, and the new score with the drums and for Gwen Stacy was just so awesome, and the score for Spider-Man 29 was so awesome as well. So I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, what do you guys think of this movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was okay? I feel like I've been talking for a long time. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. I've done a whole bunch of reviews. You can go check those out. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys next video. Bye.